Hello, welcome to IGN. I'm Daniel. This is Alex. Now, a few days ago, we played an infamous Second Son demo. It's the same demo that Marty saw at CES a few weeks ago.
Yep.
It was the first time we got to play the game. So, initially, you've never played an Infamous game.
No, I haven't.
Which is actually interesting, because I think quite a few people might come to it never playing Infamous before.
So when the first Infamous came out alongside a game called Prototype, and very, very similar games, kind of ordinary Joe thrown into a world with superpowers, and I played Prototype. Stupid me, because now that's dead. But anyway, so I think the first thing to note about the Infamous demo is that it was incredibly short.
Yeah, it was like...
no more than 10 minutes of gameplay in there. And all of that gameplay you can see on the site. But what it did, it gave us a kind of a flavour of like some of the superpowers. So there were the way that Delsin, he's the lead character in the game, he absorbs the kind of stuff around him. So in this demo,
ambient energy. So it's like smoke, one set of powers, and then if you go near a set of neon lights, you can absorb that power, and it replaces it. And I imagine there'll be more powers in the game, and they kind of tweak your skill sets. Yeah,
because if you're playing, well, if you've absorbed neon, you don't get a ranged attack.
No,
but you have the ability to run up walls.
You can run really fast like the Flash, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
but you can't. It does kind of really dictate the way that you play the game.
And it's very, very different. It took a little bit of getting used to. Again, not having played that much Infamous. I guess the other thing that kind of I've really felt as well is that Delsin as a character is a bit unlikable.
Yeah.
Like he's this kind of cocky little kid that's like, actually, look how cool I am because I've got these amazing superpowers. But at the same point, you just think, you know, what if you get shot in the head? I don't really mind.
He does have quite a smug little face to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Right at the end of the demo, they do, it's. I don't know how this is going to work in the game, but it's something called a karma bomb because you're attacked by a minigun wielding dude, and he kind of flies up out of the screen, and he's just like all this cheesy smile before crashing back down to earth. And the move itself is cool, but his face is like, come on, dude, stop being such a bit of an idiot. But again, small things, but and obviously a short demo.
It was a taster, really. I think there's lots of things that are really great about it. I think it looks really good. I don't think it's like miles ahead of anything else that's available at launch just yet. I think it's still very good looking. It has some great particle effects, bottle effects. That's what next gen's about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, everything's
No, but there's other stuff like the scale of the city, like when you flew up and did that final kind of dive bomb attack, going from street level to way out above the city in kind of one fluid motion that you can control was kind of really cool and impressive. Yeah. So there's kind of little touches like that where I think we haven't really got a good sense of the game's version of Seattle and how open it is, but I think there's enough on that mini-map that I explored a little bit more than you to suggest there is way more to do, and it's more populated than just 10 minutes of gameplay can really convey. Yeah, because like in the demo, you're funneled from point A to point B, pretty much through the entire demo. Yeah. But obviously as part of his skill set, and when you've got the smoke, you're able to glide through the air, and as you develop your skills, you're eventually able to fly, and I think that's one of my favourite games on last gen was on Xbox, Crackdown, and when you fully kind of leveled up your dude and you were jumping like huge gaps, that was just an amazing way of getting around the city. And I guess there's a comparison there with like Arkham City in that you've got above ground and then down on the street level. This feels a lot more kind of populated and I guess real, because you've got civilians in there that react to you being a demigod doing crazy stuff. Yeah, and it looks like a lived-in city. There's bits there, there's posters, there's shops, there's cafes and stuff like that. So it feels more like a real-world city with this supernatural layer superimposed on top of it. Now, there's another thing that a lot of PS4 games have. We still don't really know what it's going to be used for long term. But this being a first-party exclusive, it uses the touchpad. Yes, and it uses it really, really well. So there's a couple of bits in the demo that show it off, and like if you're breaking civilians out of the kind of like holding pens, you kind of pull back to kind of drag the door out, and there's another bit where you've got to blow up this truck and pull the power core out again by lifting it up, by dragging and then pressing the R2. It's weird, like how well do you think that works? There was another instance right beginning of the demo where you have to use like a fingerprint scanner, and obviously I think logically that makes more sense. You're putting your finger on a pad, and what you see in the game is very similar to that. Whereas pulling and dragging it, did you feel that worked better necessarily than just using an analog stick? It felt a little bit alien to begin with, but I got used to it. I tell you what I did think, I wonder if that's going to become this generation's QuickTime event, basically. Yeah. You're right, it did work well on the fingerprint scanner. It reminded me of something maybe like you might have experienced playing a DS game, where you're kind of switching, and abandoning more traditional inputs in favour of something a bit more movement, gesture-based.
Yeah. But again, as an indication of perhaps how it's going to be utilised in the final game, I think it's interesting. Okay. And I think, I guess overall as the demo, as a taster, it's definitely got my interest piqued because, before I was like, okay, I don't really see the appeal. But I think once that city is open, you've got a lot more scope and your abilities are a lot more, well, you're powered up. And I think that's going to be the key to me. I think, I don't know how the game is going to start. We're going to see more of the game very, very shortly. But I'm imagining that you start off relatively weak, you build up your powers over time. And that, to me, is where all the excitement comes. Because that's what Prototype
and ultimately, I've played the first Infamous, I dabbled in the second one, you've not really played either. I think having that new character, new setting is a very easy way to get into the series for newcomers. So that's what we thought of Infamous Second Son. For everything on the game ahead of its release, stay right here on IGN.